Yesterday, two accusations went out about racism and crimes against humanity, also within the category of racism. One came from the United Nations Commission on Review of the Gaza War, and the other was the statement by former President Jimmy Carter regarding the outburst of a Representative Wilson, John Wilson, from the state of South Carolina. The United Nations Judicial Review was a scathing attack upon Israel, stating that Israel had committed crimes against humanity in their handling of the Gaza war. Jimmy Carter said that Mr. Wilson's outburst against President Obama is nothing less than racial at its core. Now you have to understand what the United Nations actually is as an organization. Of the thousands of declarations that the United Nations has been involved with over the last half century, about 60 to 70% of their declarations of condemnation have been against the state of Israel. Now, Israel is a democratic society where Arabs and Christians and Jews of all stripes can actually vote and vote their conscience and choose representatives according to the population. It is the only true democracy or republic in the entire Middle East. Just witness the outrageous results of the so-called democratic elections in Afghanistan and in Iran, for example. So in Israel, an Arab Muslim whose mullah teaches them to destroy the Jewish state actually has a vote and can vote for his representative, and they do. They have Arab representatives in the Knesset. In Iran, Iraq, Egypt, Syria, and Lebanon, there are almost no Jews. You have to ask yourself, why are there no Jews in those countries? And the answer is they were expelled. And if there would be a larger number of Jews than there presently are, they would be brutally persecuted by the government. In fact, the Jews of Syria have been held hostage, literally in their own homes for the past 50 years. The fact is that Jews were a persecuted minority in those so-called enlightened Arab states. A Jew isn't allowed to be in Saudi Arabia. You're not allowed to be an open Christian in Saudi Arabia. You're not allowed to vote unless you're a Muslim in Iraq, which is the democracy we just created and lost thousands of lives. Now, why is that? And the answer is because the Islamic world is intolerant of anyone that's not Muslim. And so you have Islamic dictatorships which are not democratically elected, brutal dictatorships. These are never sanctioned, never criticized. Only the one state in the world where its enemies have a right to vote and can vote out and help vote out the prime minister that they disagree with. Arabs can vote in Israel and can make a coalition against the policies of the president, the prime minister, that they dislike. So the country that has the greatest freedoms and the greatest considerations for human rights is condemned. By whom? By a judge from South Africa. Has a wonderful record of human rights. Now this judge had to review also the rocket attacks against us. There were 12,000 rocket attacks before the Gaza incursion. 12,000 rockets fell on Israeli territories before they finally said enough is enough. When they presented those findings, showing those videos, the man, Goldstone, was sleeping. Why was he sleeping? Because it was irrelevant. Because he hates Jews. And he had to project his bias on someone else. Jimmy Carter, over the years, has projected himself as a champion of human rights. But Jimmy Carter, remember his brother, worked for Libya. Jimmy Carter is a closet anti-Semite. I say this very, very clearly, and I'm not afraid of taking Jimmy Carter on. Jimmy Carter accused Israel of being an apartheid state. You cannot live as a Jew in any of the Arab territories. If you lived in Gaza, or if you lived in Judea Samaria without the Israeli army's protection, you'd be murdered. A Jew is not welcome in Bethlehem or in Hebron without the IDF's protection. Now tell me if that's democratic, that you can't live in your own historical land where your grandparents are buried. But Arabs live in Jewish land. Now Jerusalem is traditionally Jewish. There isn't such thing as Arab, traditional Arab land. This was what the media and Jimmy Carter would like you to believe. But in truth, even before 1948, two-thirds of the citizens, two-thirds of the people living in the old city of Jerusalem were Jewish. How can you make East Jerusalem traditionally Arab? Except if you really hate Jews. And so Jimmy Carter projects himself as a humanist, criticizing human rights violations of Jews, while he himself is a closet anti-Semite. Jimmy Carter is a racist. He's a racist in the sense that he's anti-people who disagree with his philosophy. He dislikes them. And because he dislikes them, he projects that dislike upon them. Joe Wilson may not be a tzaddik, but he's not a racist. Obama is opposed not because he's a black president, but because he's a socialist president, trying to take this country on a very, very dangerous path, a destructive path. Anti-CIRCS rejoice. At least you're not a hypocrite like Jimmy Carter or like Judge Goldstone from the United Nations Judicial Committee.